because I'm differently able, because I'm an outlier, it's like I knew I have to work whatever a person with arms and legs who, is in the world. And frankly, I don't care whether you're black, white, yellow, you're missing arms, you're missing legs. The truth is, anybody that wants to achieve a level of success has to always, no matter who you are, work 10 times harder than the person above you or below you.
Welcome to the Growth Mavericks podcast, where we know that entrepreneurship isn't just about strategy. It's about stamina. It's about disrupting your default and getting comfortable being uncomfortable so you don't burn out before you break through. I'm your host, Adam Callinan. Let's get to work. The conversation today is with one of my favorite human beings on the planet. And I can say that he's one of because I have a family, and they are the only people that supersede my love for this human. His name is Emmanuel Kelly. I'm going to just read the short version of a bio that I pulled online from our friends at ChatGPT, honestly, because it's impossible to sum up who he is in a tiny little blurb. But here's the highlights. Emmanuel Kelly is a singer, a motivational speaker, an entrepreneur who first rose to fame on the X Factor Australia. I will link to that in the show notes because it's incredible. With his powerful voice and inspiring life story that captured global attention. He was born in Iraq and adopted by humanitarian Moira Kelly at the age of 7, where he overcame extraordinary odds, including being born without limbs due to chemical exposure. He now uses his platform to champion inclusion, inspire others through music and storytelling. He's the founder of Outlyer Entertainment, which we talk about a lot with Chris Martin from Coldplay. He just finished opening 12 international concerts with Coldplay, and he is truly a gift to humanity. He has had everything stacked against him since birth, and he is the happiest, most motivated, positive human being I have ever had the experience of being around. And if you take anything from this, share this with me. He, to me, is the perfect constant reset of perspective. He is the person that when I feel like I'm dealing with something difficult or hard or challenging, he is my, what would Emmanuel do? I'm really excited to share this conversation with you and my friend, Emmanuel Kelly. Let's be good storytellers and start at your beginning.
All right. Yeah. Let's start there. That's a great idea. So for story's sake, I was found in a box on a battlefield in Iraq by 2 soldiers who heard a baby cry, and they went towards that baby, and they heard, they saw me, and that they realized that baby was me, and they took me to an orphanage where I was then raised there for the next 7 years of my life. And then at the 7th year, the Chippendales had heard about me and thought, let's recruit him and build him up as a 7-year-old. And
Yeah.
I took over Chippendales when I was 18, legal, obviously, had to be. Of legal age. Yep. But they did train me for from 7 till, you think Cristiano Ronaldo and all these, Lamine Yamal at Barcelona train when they're 5. Well, I tell you what, being a Chippendale dancer, you got to start at least 7 or 8. No, I was though taken to an orphanage.
I haven't heard that story, so that was a good version
Good
of the
one,
story.
isn't it?
Yeah, I think your other one's probably more impactful, but we can take that
more.
one.
That's it. No, look, I was raised in that orphanage for the next 7 years, seeing and experiencing executions, gunshots, every day wondering whether it was going to be my last day on earth. But the one thing that kind of kept me going was hope. Hope that somebody was going to help, come and rescue me, and I would able to take advantage of that rescuing and turn my life into something extraordinary. Whatever that extraordinary looked like, I had no idea, but certainly had hope. And every day that hope just flushed through my veins. I think the biggest part of the hope, though, that I had was not so much that somebody would come and rescue me, but that I would just live that day. I would live long enough to see that person come and rescue me or experience that. So lo and behold, that hope kind of stood strong. And when I was 7 years old, an incredible woman, Moira Kelly, humanitarian, ran projects for Mother Teresa, ran projects for the Pope, for Queen of England. She's an extraordinary woman. She came to Iraq and met my now brother Ahmed, who was my brother in the orphanage as well. Um, and uh, and it took her about 2.5 years to take us to Australia. But when she first met us, well, first of all, she met us when we were around about 5, 6 years old, and then it took her 2.5 years to get us out to Australia. So I came out to Australia around 7.5, 8 years of age. But when we first met Auntie Moira, we called her. My brother goes up to her and he says, Auntie Moira, can you take Emmanuel and I? Can you save us both? And she said, I'll do my best, but I don't know. And my brother turns around and he goes, well, if you can't help Emmanuel and I, just take Emmanuel and don't worry about me. Come back for me another time. He wasn't even my blood brother. He wasn't my blood brother. He wasn't related to me by blood. But I think in those moments, and when I heard that story, because I didn't even know my brother did that until mum, who I call her now, Marnie Moira, told me years later and told both my brother and I that story and said that that's one of her most beautiful memories. And in that moment, I realized the only thing that's actually thicker than blood is love, right? My brother's love and shieldedness for me. Is that even a word? Shieldedness.
We'll take it.
It is now.
Yeah,
I make up words, just
that's
pre-warning.
fine. I know you meant.
And yeah, and so now, from sort of that 5, 6, 7 years, it's from that 5, 6 year old, hope turned into not just hope but also love, right? This beautiful relationship between my brother and I, and him protecting me and minding me and raising me up, and me raising him up, mostly through taking the slack of all the naughty things he did for him. I'd be the one that that took the blame for it, even though it wasn't my fault. Um, so we just built, we became brothers. That's what it came down to. Eventually I came out to Australia at the age of 7. Um, I have a bunch of surgeries over the next sort of 8 years. Um, I think 16 was my final. Age 16 was the last surgery I had. And in those surgeries, after the third surgery is when I actually learned how to walk for the first time. So around about 11 years of age, I learned how to walk for the first time.
Can you, I'm, you know that I know the answer to a lot of these questions, but I think they're important as far as telling the story.
Mm.
There were, I deeply appreciate that this is not what or who you are, and it does not define you, but it is part of you and it is part of your story. Was it your biological mom was exposed to some chemical
Yeah,
weapons and
yeah.
that created some challenges?
Yeah, no, the belief is that my exactly that. My biological parents were exposed to the chemicals that were already in existing weapons, right? Bombs, et cetera, et cetera. There was obviously proof that Iraq didn't have chemical weapons in the end. However, it doesn't matter. I mean, chemical, official chemical, biochemical weapons or not, at the end of the day, there are chemicals in weapons, and those chemicals, whether it's gunpowder or something else, can affect pregnancy. So yeah, it was thought that my mother specifically was exposed during pregnancy, and that's how I ended up this extraordinarily good looking. Um, so so and my brother, on the other hand, he was born like that. I mean, what we always sometimes say is, you know, God God focused so hardly and so much on my face that he just basically said, "Ah, fuck this. I can't be stuffed finishing the rest. He's right. Right to go." And mainly that's because I probably talked him to death. I talked God, her hit, whatever God is, talked God to death, and God just booted me out in the end and said, "You know what? You've got enough. You're good looking. That'll do." It was either that or this is what you get when you order an Arab from IKEA: wonky bits and missing parts. Um, so, so no, but that's essentially what we believe happened. And so when I came out to Ray, I had to learn how to walk. You know, I got a prosthetic. I had to learn how to use a knife and fork. The doctors made a hand made a hand for me so I could hold, I could hold mugs and cups and glasses and, all that sort of stuff. So, um, it allowed me to be more self-sufficient than I already was, which is awesome. Um, but also those surgeries taught me another little, I suppose, key part in my life, and that's determination, right? To want to fight through anything and everything that I have. I think we're all born with those gifts. We are. That's the truth of it. Because they are determination, willpower, hope, all of them. They're gifts, right? And we're all born with it. The difficult challenge in life is how do you trigger those gifts, right? How do you trigger them to activate and work for you instead of necessarily be hidden and shunned and pushed down deep, and instead other laziness and loss of will or loss of hope
Mm.
and being triggered. And I think that's a big portion of that is probably the people that you surround yourself with. And I learned that the hard way, which will go through the story of what then all kind of transpired. But yeah, I came out to Australia when I was 8 years old, had a bunch of surgeries, and learned how to walk, learned how to use a knife and fork, hold a glass, all the main things that we take for granted. Um, with one hand, that is. I used to use two hands, still held a glass when I was a kid. And then, learned that I could use my gifts as a tool to deliver the message I want to deliver in the world. Learned self-love, learned all those things that you have to learn as a young person. Lost it, but then learned to, got it back again. Um, and then eventually went on a TV show, X Factor, performed Imagine, and that led me to coming to the US and working with some amazing people, from bloody Quincy Jones to Snoop Doggy Dogg. Every day he thought my arm was growing back. I kept having to tell him he's high. Um, you didn't know that story, did you,
I
Adam?
didn't. I didn't.
Yeah, there's a
No.
story for you. There we go. And so I got to do some pretty cool things, and then I met this unique, very sort of quiet chap who's not so quiet these days. I feel like he come out of his shell a little bit, and also super nerdy geeky dude named Adam Callinan.
Yeah, yours truly.
You know him?
That's particularly accurate on the last part. Let's
Yes.
let's back up. Let's back up a little bit. You mentioned a business is like an engine. It needs fuel to run. For consumer brands and pretty much every company on the planet, that fuel is profit. Without it, growth stalls and everything feels harder than it should be. Pentane helps you fine tune your business and advertising so you're running at peak performance, showing you exactly what's driving your margins, your cash flow, and pricing power. No more wasted time in spreadsheets or guessing what's working, waiting until you get your P&L next month to see if it's good or bad. Just the clarity and direction you need to grow faster, smarter, and with less stress. So if you're running a consumer brand, go to pentane.com and fuel your growth today. How old were you when you went on X Factor? Like
I was
18 or
17.
17? Okay.
17 when I first auditioned. The show went live when I was 18.
Got it. You mentioned a period in there before that where you lost or misplaced self-love.
Yeah, so I actually
And
lost.
I bring like quickly, I bring this up because it is so counter to who you are as a human. So there's probably a gem in there somewhere.
No, I lost self-love actually after X Factor,
Really?
not before.
Okay.
Um, I think when you get something given to you really, really quickly and you don't have people to cultivate it and guide you through that cultivation, and you've just got somebody just cultivating it like it's a pimp, you're a product of a pimp, right, in that sense, and that's all you have, and no one's actually serving as also a mentor and a guide. what happens is you get lost in this world of, especially in Hollywood, you get lost in this world of glitz and glamour and money and fame and fake love. And you think fake love is real love. And so you replace your own self-love with that fake love, right?
Mm.
And when you replace that fake love from people, fans, things like that, who don't really know who you are, they just love you. And that's okay. That's bloody great. That's part of, that's part of the game. That's part of the industry, right? So, but the trick is not to replace it with your self-love. But when you replace it with your self-love, you lose your self-love, right? Or better yet, you don't lose it, you bury it. And then it becomes a really, really, really heavy spade when you grab that spade to go and dig up that I suppose self-love that you've buried, right? And
Right.
it's super heavy, and it's been concreted up, and it's no longer just dirt covering it. It's serious, it's a fucking tomb. So you have to find a way to break that tomb down and bring out that self-love. And that took me some time. Like when
Mm.
I lost that self-love, I lost all my money. I lost all my, I suppose, will to wanting to succeed. And it was only for a limited of time, thank goodness. And it begun with that motion. It's like when I lost all that money, I lost the people that I thought were there for me and supporting me. I already had this, I suppose, set of humans who didn't want me to achieve, or at least didn't believe I could achieve, not necessarily want me or not. I don't think they really cared either way. They just didn't believe I could achieve. And that was 55% of the music industry. The others were made up of fans and celeb mates who were just there to support because it made them feel good.
Mhm.
I didn't have that belief factor from record labels and things like that. And so you've got all that and a bunch of people saying no, and then you've got a bunch of people saying we love you, we love you, we love you, and it clashes. And then in that clashing moment, you need something to, or you need something to feel like you need to feel like you need to strengthen your own self-love. And so you do that by grabbing the fake love, and then before you know it, you're replacing that self-love with that fake love.
How did you break out of that? Yeah, it does make sense.
Um,
What triggered, or what were the steps you took to get through that?
Actually, I think there's this mindset that people have. Um, when people say you sometimes have to hit true rock bottom before
Yeah.
you can make it. I hit rock bottom. I ended up homeless, and it was the same time I knew you. You know, it was the same time I knew Anthony and Tien's and all the people that I knew already. But what everybody didn't know was that night I was either sleeping in a car or I was homeless. And maybe you'd suspected a couple times, because I might have reached out a few times and said, "Hey man, can I come over? I wanted to talk about this," but really I just needed a place to stay that night. And then it was one day when it was literally one day I was on a park bench just sitting in Santa Monica. It was 5 a.m. in the morning. I'd slept there that night because it was a warm night, and I just saw a sunrise, and I had this flash of memory of Iraq and the child that I was, um, with just that determination, that willpower, and that hope. And I realized in that moment, I think I've hit rock bottom here. Um, and I need to let go of all my ego, let go of all my pride, and ask for help. And so actually one of the people I asked for help was, funny enough, was Tony. And I called him. I knew, you know, being a devout Muslim, he'd be up at 5 a.m. in the morning. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna I'm gonna call this guy because no one else will be up. And I said, I need your help. And he said, what do you need? And I said, I need you, first of all, to promise you won't tell anybody until I'm ready to tell this story one day. And I don't know when that one day is. but I need your help, and this is what I need your help with. And I actually share that, and Tony shares that in our documentary that comes out this year, later this year. So, we but I hit rock bottom, and then when I hit rock bottom, I asked key people for help. And when I got the help, I just started putting notes up on my wall and saying, right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. It was like I rejuvenated, it was like a reset, you know, and, and now I realize, but that reset completed itself because it was a long reset. It was a, 2.5 year reset, or longer, actually. It was more like a 6 year reset, to be honest. But that reset sort of finished in about 2018. And then stage one of the rebuild began. And that was in 2018. And it just slowly, there was a setback during COVID, but kept fighting on, kept moving forward. And one of the things that I needed to do, that got me through that stage one and got me through that setback, was finding what my purpose would be, and that's where Outlier came into play, and what I wanted to do with that. And I remember calling you and saying, "Hey, I need, I'm thinking of doing this. I need your help." Chris Martin's supporting it, and you introduced me to, I remember, a COO at the time, who I was having conversations with him to see if there was stuff we can do. But the point was, it was keeping my brain and my passion and my willpower and my, it was keeping me active. It was keeping me working. It's like when you're an 80-year-old, when you're 80 years of age, the best thing to keep your mind active and keep working is to do what? It's working in the garden. It's driving people. It's having constant conversations with people. It keeps you young. It keeps you fresh. It keeps you active. And it was kind of like that. Me just finding a way to achieve my purpose, gave me it gave my willpower and determination fuel, if that makes sense.
It does. You were unbelievably gifted at hiding that situation. I had no idea that. I mean, I very much remember that time period. I had no idea that you were in that situation.
And most people didn't, and that's the truth of it. I didn't want people to know. One thing I never wanted people to um, do was play the pity party with Emmanuel, right? And the truth is, I'd known you well enough, but it's not something people can control. So even if you don't think, or even if somebody, I mean, Tony gave it. Everybody gives it. They don't mean to. You can't control that, right? It's part of human nature, and it's good. It's a beautiful part of human nature. But because I'm differently able, because I'm an outlier, it's like I knew I have to work whatever a person with arms and legs who, is in the world. And frankly, I don't care whether you're black, white, yellow, you're missing arms, you're missing legs. The truth is, anybody that wants to achieve a level of success has to always, no matter who you are, work 10 times harder than the person above you or below you, right? In order to achieve what you want to succeed, you have to, right? In but when it comes to achieving a purpose, and whatever that purpose is, you have to work about 50 times harder, because a purpose is something that is legacy. It's something that not only satisfies your internal spirituality, your internal heart, your mind, all that sort of stuff, but it also satisfies your own universal belief of what you can achieve. Does that make sense?
It does.
So for me, as a as an individual who's from Australia, who has the story that I have, coming into LA, the truth is I'd already gauged people's empathy and sympathy, fake love and real love, right? The one thing I didn't want was then to pull out the part of, hey, by the way, I'm now homeless and I need more help. I didn't want to be that guy who people sort of thought that guy's going to do it, but he keeps needing help. You don't want to be. I didn't want to be that person.
Yeah.
And maybe it was for my own sanity. Maybe I just needed to feel like I need to find a way out on my own, for my own for my own pride. But even with pride, even with ego, even with all those things, I then had to come to realization that I had to let go of that. And I wasn't now doing it for my own ego or pride. I was doing it first for survival, and then second to achieve what I set out to achieve, to be that child that I was in that orphanage, with hope, with gratitude towards the universe, but most of all with willpower to make the difference I was put on this earth to make a difference. And I don't even know what that difference is yet. I may never know, but I know I'm supposed to do something, because those soldiers would not have stopped shooting at one another if there wasn't, and they wouldn't have heard me cry if there wasn't some kind of cosmic reason. And maybe it was just bloody dumb luck, but I choose to believe that there's some cosmic reason that I'm where I am. And if it's bloody dumb luck, then geez, I must be one hell of a lucky person. so, and I'll take that as well. But I'm going to turn that luck into something more than just luck.
Yeah, I think the world is far too interconnected in ways that we don't understand to call something like that luck. So if we look back in, this must have been like 2016 or 17, you and I went to a LA Rams game.
Yes,
Remember
I
that?
remember that.
Of course.
A lot of walking.
Um,
Wasn't
a
happy.
lot of walking. There was a bit of walk. Yeah, it's unfortunately you can't just like drive right up to the stadium. At least I couldn't. I didn't have the right pass or
Next time
connection or whatever.
next time we go VIP box seats. Although no, we
Yeah,
did go
we
VIP.
we
We did
did
go
end up in a
VIP.
box seat, but
Yeah, yeah, and
one of the things that I deeply admire and appreciate, and why I like having you in my life in any way possible, is that I knew that that was hard for you.
yeah,
I knew that it was difficult because we did have to walk a lot. There were a ton of stairs. It just like there's no other way to get into at that point. I think it was at the Coliseum in LA, which is an old like Roman era style
and
football
it's
stadium.
an
So
epic
it's not
place.
easy. Yeah, it's an epic place, but it's not easy to get into. And not one time did I feel like you were upset about it, complaining. Like you freaking lived for it. You
Yeah, I love it.
like, how do you think about that? Or is it just like who you are because of where you've been and where you've come from and your personality?
Like I said, I think everybody is like that. Every single human being has that in them. I mean, scientists are saying that potentially humans, or at least our brains, are the universe trying to make itself conscious, right? So if we have that, the power of the universe inside us, right, we are capable of anything and everything, right? The trick is triggering it. What
Yeah.
is that trigger for you, right? What is the domino for you? Like, what's that domino for? What gets you? For me, it's it's challenge, right? It's something like, if something was just too easy, I think I would just get bored. I'd start playing PS5 all day and I'd just be bored, right? So for me, the trigger is actually the challenge, right? I
Hmm.
enjoy I invite the challenge. I invite contest. I invite arguments and contention, and I love that, right? I feed off it, and I want people to question my belief system. I want to be able to question other people's belief systems to see how resolute each individual is, because if you are resolute through that process, then the truth is you are meant to be doing what you're doing, right?
Hmm.
Whether being the president of the United States, or that's the one thing I respect about the current guy. I mean, I'm not a fan, but it doesn't matter whether I'm a fan. The man is resolute in his endeavors, right? And whatever that looks like, that to me, I respect that. Now, when you enact it in a way that is negative towards society, that draws me away. So when you enact it that benefits you, your family, and society in some way, shape, or form, and it could be that you donate a bit of money every year to a charity that you love, or you support, talent, or in your case, you were awesome in what you did, but you also your way was being a part of my life, supporting my endeavors, whatever that looked like. So therefore, in my opinion, if I achieve when I achieve the things I want to achieve, you are a cog in that achievement, right? And therefore, as far as I'm concerned, your success, the success that you've achieved in your life, you have you have satisfied, right? Satisfied the cosmic reason of existence for yourself, right? You may not think so, but as far as I am, and why? Because you've helped somebody else. You were a part of that cog, right? You've helped somebody else achieve something. And so if you can just be a grain of sand in that achievement, then you've done something right in your life. And so whatever that looks like, and it may, but people that do it more, I'm all for that, and I love it. But for me, it's the challenge. It's every single challenge that we have in our lives, and for me, it's the challenge of achieving something that everybody doesn't, that people don't quite believe it can be done, but want to see it done. Does that make sense?
It
And
does.
it's what I'm doing with Outlier. I mean, as sad as people say it's a bad thing, and it's sad that we live in this society that I was the first differently abled or differently abled in general to do a stadium tour as a solo act, not a part of a band because I'm a drummer. No, no, like as a Emmanuel Kelly billing act, right? As an opening act, I'm billed, right? That is a billing thing. It's not like I'm a part of something, and I'm the first differently able to ever do a stadium act like that. First physical differently able to do a stadium act in general. Bless you. So by the way, you shouldn't hold your sneezes. It can give you
I
a
didn't. I just covered my mouth so I didn't spit all over my microphone.
okay, cool, because
Yeah. No, I'm
it
good.
can give
I'll blow
you
your head up. Yeah.
yeah, it can give you an aneurysm or something apparently. Anyway, so yeah, so the fact that I was that person, to me, uh, I don't mind the that reality, because yes, if somebody else had done it, great, I'd be happy for it and I'd find a new challenge. But to me, it was the challenge. It was
Yeah.
challenge number one. Now, challenge number two is this company, is the film and television stuff. It's more music. It's the growth of that. So for me, my trigger is challenges.
Let's talk about challenge number 1 and how you got to that. Did you let's go back. When you were a 5-year-old in the orphanage, were you singing? Like, have you just been singing
Yeah.
your entire life?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
know you've been talking your entire life, but singing, you've just been singing for forever.
Forever. Since I was in the orphanage, I would be making up melodies left, right, and center. What's funny is singing. Um, I love singing a lot. I love being on stage. I love performing. But funny enough, singing and music wasn't my passion nor purpose. It was a passion, but it wasn't my sole passion and purpose. Um, what what singing gave me was the challenge of being the first differently able to ever make it commercially, right? Actors have done it. You got the Peter Dinklages and things like that. So you've had some kind of element to that, but also acting, there've been plenty of actors who are differently able that have made it in some way, shape, or form, whether it's TV or film, you know, commercially, right? Whether they've had a key role or whatever. And commercial success in acting is a little bit different to music. there's never been a pop artist that's physically differently abled in history.
How
Uh,
did you go? How did you go from, I mean, X Factor happened when you were in the 17, 18 range. How did
right.
you go from that to, I'm going to jump like a decade plus ahead to this last year? You opened for Coldplay on, 12 concerts all over the world. Like, what happened? Obviously a lot happened in between that didn't happen overnight. What happened? So it started at X Factor. What happened next?
Chris and I met on Tinder, and the rest is history.
Oh, they just can't help it. I love it. Yeah.
Um, in so after that period of homelessness and trying to find a way out. I mean, I was signed to a label, got dropped. I mean, it was a whole thing. Um,
I remember that actually. Yeah.
so that's kind of when it all just spun out of control in that sense. But after all that, and after I, served myself the pity bath and reveled all through it and washed myself and really oiled myself up. I then washed it off and washed that pity soap and put up, literally, I kid you not, I put up a note on the wall, and every day I looked at that note and then I put another note that says the same thing on top of it. And it was like a pile that just built up on top of it, saying, I will perform with a major artist by the end of this year and a legendary artist by the end of this year to reset and restart this stage of my life. And every single day I made 100 phone calls, literally. Um, I think I remember, like, one of the days I might have even called you like 3 times just to double check that you didn't know somebody. It was one of those things. I said, "Are you sure?" And I called everyone. I called Anthony. I went to lunches. I forced people to pay for those lunches because I was broke. Um, but I went to them. I dropped every major card. I said, "Listen, can I, imagine me performing with a legend?" And I had a list of artists. Imagine what it would do for that artist. Like, I had a whole pitch lined up. Funny part is, I didn't put it on paper. Like, I didn't put the pitch on paper. It was all here. I knew what I wanted to deliver, and I knew what I wanted to say. And I just kept going, kept going, kept going, kept going, and eventually, I ended up crashing into an individual who knew an individual, and that individual said, "Listen, I've got a friend of mine, and I'm going to send it to them, and their name is Habib," and put that to the side. I said, "Okay, well, look, I need to go to Utah because I can't stay where I am here. And I've got, somebody that's willing to put me up for a month and a half in Utah." So I drove to Utah. I stayed there for that month and never heard back from that person. But I kept making the phone calls. I kept doing everything I needed to, kept putting it on my wall, kept saying, "I'm going to do it by the end of the year. I'm going to do it by the end of the year. I'm going to do it by the end of the year." And this was 2017. And I ended up eventually that a phone call I made. I don't even know who it was because I'd made so many, but a phone call I made connected me to a person. That person, who I haven't spoken to ever again, for whatever reason, no reason, connect me. Just said, "Hey, you're awesome. I'm going to connect you with somebody else who's connected." Connect me with somebody else. That person said, "Listen, I'm going to send this video, your video, to a few people." And about 48 hours, 48 hours later, my godfather gets a phone call from a guy named Dr. Habib Sadeghi. And he says, "Can you come to LA?" I said, "Yeah, I'm in Utah." He goes, "No worries. I'll pay for your petrol. Just come to LA. Come see me. Come to my clinic in Agoura Hills." And he says, "Because I want to introduce you to some people." And I'm thinking, what am I doing? Why would I just go to LA and I don't know? And I asked him, like, who are the types of people you want to introduce me to? And he goes, "Everybody on your list I can introduce you to." I said, "Oh, you have my list?" He says, "Yes." I said, "Okay, all right, I'll come to LA." And he goes, "Also, I've spoken to your mother." I said, "Ah, shit. I have to go to LA." So he did, and he genuinely did. He instead of coming through the person that actually sent him the video, obviously it just roundabouts. I think like at least like I don't know how many people live in Hollywood, but I'm telling you, I reckon every third person got that video in that 6 months. And and but Habib didn't know how to get in touch with me, so best way he knew how to get in touch with me was bloody call my mum in Australia. So he called my mum because she has a charity, and she says, "Oh yeah, Emmanuel, yeah, I'm sure, yeah, I can connect you, Mr. Habib." And so anyway, long story short, we go to LA. I sit with Habib. He goes, "Okay, who out of your list is the number one person you wanna connect with?" I said, it's Coldplay." And he goes, "Okay, cool." I said, "No promises, but what I do want you to do right now is say, 'Hi, Chris. My name is Emmanuel Kelly, and this is my story, and I want to perform with you.'" I said, "Is it Chris Martin? Is that who you're talking about?" And he goes, I'm not going to say, but I will tell you, is the person that you're sending this to is a Chris." You know, and this is how Habib works. It's a little annoying, but it's his way, and it's beautiful. Anyway, I said, "When should I expect to hear back from somebody?" And he says, it could be a month, it could be 2 weeks, it could be 6 months, but you're my brother. Treatments are on the house. I said, "Great, all right. Can I have a massage?" And I got one. And all that sort of stuff. And every month I do a gathering, and my clients typically come to that gathering. And his clients included everyone from Will Smith and the Smith family to Kennedy's to Coldplay to Gwyneth Paltrow to so Javier Bardem. I sung at his birthday thanks to for Habib. I didn't even know I was singing for Javier Bardem until he bloody walks in. So it's all these just a bunch of amazing humans, but also humans that are part of the industry. And Habib is like a spiritual advisor and family practitioner to these guys. So anyway, long story short, I I don't leave LA at the time. I asked Habib if again. I mean, if there was a competition at somebody figuring out how to get free accommodation, I mean, I reckon I'd be close up there. I should be a competitor in this at the time anyway. But Habib takes care of us, and it was myself and my godfather Peter. I um I stick around. Peter sticks around, and then Peter actually goes back to Australia, and then I just stick it out for the next couple of years. But Habib, about 3 weeks later, before Peter left, we're back in Utah, and Peter gets the phone call, and it's this guy named Phil, and Phil says, "Hi, I'm Phil, and I work for the band called Coldplay. Sorry, I'm from England, and I work for Coldplay." And he goes, "Right, I've never heard of the town Coldplay in England. Can you tell me more?" And the guy goes, "No, no, no, I'm from the band." "Right, okay, that's a very interesting name, the band." Okay. I mean, the guy was just all over the place. And anyway, he hangs up the phone, and I said, "Peter, who was that?" And he goes, "I don't know, some guy named Phil, and he's from a band called Coley or Old Play, I think it is. Yeah, Old Play. It's a weird name, and they're from a town, in England. I don't know the town, but they're called the band." I said, I said, "Peter, is it Coldplay, and they're from England originally, and Phil is the manager, Phil Harvey," and he says, "No, I'm pretty sure it's Old Play. Yeah, definitely it's Old Play." So Peter, how do we get in touch with him? He goes, "I don't know. I hung up on him. It sounded like it was a he used colorful language, but he says sounded like it was some Nigerian prince or something calling me." I said, "Peter, why would you do that?" Anyway, long story short, we got the call back. I took the call this time, and it was Phil, and he said, "I'm from Coldplay. Chris received this video from our brother Habib." I said, "Oh, that bugger did it. That bloody bastard actually did it." So yeah, Chris then says, "You want to come and perform on stage with me?" And I'm acting super cool. "Oh yeah, sure, yeah, absolutely, mate." And he goes, "How excited are you, seriously though, from 1 to 10? Because I'm hearing that we're on your list." And I said, "Dude, I'm like, I mean, I use very colorful language that will be beyond exciting." He goes, "That's too much information, mate." and the rest is, the rest is history. And a brotherhood was born, and we met for the first time officially in Melbourne, and then that led me to then reaching out to a contact who I had met a few years prior, who I hadn't spoken to, a guy named Rob Goldstein. He was hosting a concert with a Russian a Russian singer named Emman, and Emman was David Foster was the curator of the concert. He was the player of
Mm.
the concert, and he was the guy. And I said, you know what? I have this goal. Yeah, it was, do something with a superstar, like the biggest act in the world, one of like in top five, and a legend. And David Foster's a legend. And I know you're working with David, so what do you reckon? And 24 hours later, I got the David Foster gig as well, and I'd achieve all my dreams. And um, this entire dream process started in January, and it was achieved in May, and in December I performed with Coldplay. And then in 2018 I began producing my album with Chris, and we finished the album at the end of 2018. 2019 we started getting ready to drop a few songs and tidy up a few of the albums and prep a tour, and then COVID hit, and then things started to just take their own accord from there. And you know, created a music video during COVID, which I think you know about, and we're featuring some amazing people again with the support of Chris. But we just created a brotherhood, Chris and I. But I do remember at the end of 2018, I said to Chris, "When are you guys going out on tour again?" And he says, "Don't know, man, but probably 2019 or probably 2020, I think it was actually." And then COVID hit, and I said, "Well, that's awesome, man. I'm going to be on your next tour. Yeah, I'm going to open for you." And he goes, "Yeah, we can give you a show." I go, "No, no, no. I'm opening your entire Australian New Zealand leg. There's no there's no one show, mate. I'm doing minimum 10 shows." I said, or no, I think it was 8 shows. I said. And he goes, "All right," and the rest is history, man.
Such a crazy, perfect example of the durability required to get to that point where an opportunity, this like, I'll use outliers as a great word. I know we'll talk about outlier in a second, but as that outlier opportunity that comes out of nowhere that you didn't plan for, that is the thing that makes the thing. That happens in business and entrepreneurship stuff all the time. And it's about being resilient enough and anti-fragile enough to at least make it to that point, which is hard.
Yeah, I think the harder you work, no, sorry, I'll rephrase that. People say the harder you work, the luckier you get. I'm a strong believer that it's a fine balance between smart and hard, right? You have to work hard, but the more, like, if you're working hard, like super hard, and you're just banging against a wall like a hedgehog, right? You're not going to go anywhere, right? But if you recognize that wall's probably not going to break, but if you operate a bit like a fox, where you find a way into that, you find a way around that wall or whatever it is. So I think you have to have that fine balance between working hard and working smart. And I had to recognize that very, very quickly and very, very um, forcefully in some ways, where I needed to, there was two things. There was a quote that I saw that said, "It's none of my business what anybody else thinks about me. It's only my business what I think about myself." So that stimulated that belief in self-love again, because as long as I just appreciated, embraced myself, I was gold in that sense. And that operates as the most powerful shield to deflect any negative feedback that affects your own mental state, right? In a negative way, right? So mental state to be smarter, different story, but mental state that, is about the way you look or the way you appear, no, that stuff, right? It deflects against that. Then there's the aspect of operating in a way that is um, smart, by surrounding yourself with the 5 people you want, like you you want to see a little bit of yourself in, if that makes sense, or
It
vice.
does.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, you know, the 5 people you surround yourself with are representative of who you want to be. And so I knew that in my case, I can't do 5 people, right? I don't have 5 fingers, so not gonna limit it, right? So I figured instead of surrounding myself with 5 people, just surround myself with however many people it takes, but as long as they represent the person I want to be, right? Because each individual has their own piece of wisdom to give, right? It's a brotherhood and advice and friendship and all that sort of stuff, right? But then somebody else on the other side, it might be more from a very music driven business concept, right? Where it's whatever it is. So each individual had its own aspect to that motion going forward. But working smart, like just because you work hard, it doesn't mean you're going to succeed. You've got to work hard and you've got to work smart. And if you feel like you're not smart enough to achieve the thing you want to achieve, then find somebody that is smart enough and work with them and let them give you that lead. Let them help you get to that place. And that I think I you know, if you look at most billionaires, you know, Elon Musk doesn't create his own cars, you know, so it's people around him, and I think that's the one thing that I've had to really learn the hard way is if I'm not an expert in that world, I'm not touching it. I'll find somebody that knows their shit, and we'll work together on it, and I'll envision it, and yeah.
Let's talk before we close up here. Let's talk about Outlier.
Yeah.
You and Chris started,
Yep.
correct me if that's wrong. I don't know how that thing is set up from my understanding. That's what it was. Started this company. What is it? What does Outlier do?
Yeah, so Chris and I did co-found Outlier. He actually is massively responsible for the name, funny enough. I just told him what the purpose of the company was, and he says that's the name. Um, Outlier, our goal is to place outliers in front of and behind the camera. So we're a film and television company, not a charity, for profit. Let me make that very clear. But our goal is to place differently abled behind and in front of the camera. Um, the outlier community is made up of people with non-conforming mental health, neurodiversity, exclusory conditions, so like autoimmune disease and stroke and things like that. Carers, physical disability. That's the outlier community. The outlier community, not including the carers and not including non-conforming mental health, makes up about 13.5 trillion. Actually, it's gone up to about 18 trillion in annual disposable income, 125 billion in film and television annual disposable income just for film and television distributors and streamers, which is completely untapped. And when I saw that stat, I immediately thought a light bulb moment hit, and I thought, maybe this is part of my purpose. Not everybody has a Chris Martin in their life, and I do, and I can utilize who he is and his credibility, his pull, and his global brand awareness to raise up other outliers in the world. And I'm using him to already raise me up. So it's like the song "You Raise Me Up," to raise me up in order for me to be able to raise others up. So Outlier is a film and television company that places differently abled and or outliers in front of and behind the camera. Our whole philosophy is zero barrier casting and zero barrier crewing. That's the method that we go. None of our projects have anything to do with the narrative of what this community goes through, or a narrative about the community. It's all very highly commercial content. Our whole philosophy when we cast and when we tell, make these movies is a casual inclusion model, because that's how society is. So it's representative of the way society is, right? When I'm walking down the street and I see, an outlier. I'm not asking them, oh, what happened, you poor bastard. No, no, no. I'm just saying, yeah, if I can do that, so can you. So I'm not, you get yourself up those stairs, mate, or whatever it is, So it is the way society is, and so we wanted to represent society in the most authentic way possible through fun commercial content. We have a live music division as well, so we've got live music events. So we're partnering with some awesome organizations, sporting events, and things like that to host and produce some of their events and place Outliers in those events alongside other superstars. So it's really kind of bringing the Outlier community into the mainstream market and mainstream audience, and the disposable income is there. So it's not like it's got to be done as a charity case. So
Yeah.
that's Outlier.
Amazing. And that's Outlier with a Y, right?
Outlier with a Y and a zero. Actually, it's a zero for
I
zero
didn't
barrier
realize that.
casting, zero barrier casting, zero barrier crewing. So it's spelt with a zero and spelt with a Y. Mainly for this one reason, and it's actually kind of a little contradicting to what we're trying to achieve from an accessibility front. But the people that find us are supposed to find us and need to find us. So, and frankly, we don't want to be, our whole philosophy is we want to be the man behind the successes. We want to be the girl behind the success. We want to be the human, the non-gender specific thing behind that success. For us, it's not about, for us, it's not necessarily about, oh, everybody needs to know us. Everybody needs to know our name. I think for us, as long as people start embracing the name, but not necessarily need to know who we are per se, that to me is a success. It's about our brands. It's about what we're launching through the brands. It's about our message, and it's about our impact.
Incredible. Where do you want people to find you, find Outlier?
You can go to outlyer.com, spell it with a zero, but as well, if you spell it with an O and a Y, you'll find us. So it's pretty good. But yeah, you can go to outlyer.com. You can go to Emmanuel Kelly official on Instagram. I don't do anything else. I mean, actually, I do X. I'm doing that now. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
13 followers. I know, 3 followers. Following 13 people. I have 3 followers. So there we go. Obviously LinkedIn, I'm also on there. But mainly, yeah, Instagram's your best place. And then you can also go to Outlyer Official on Instagram as well. So, and that's spelt with an O. So to make it easier for people, if they want to find us, but which is again contradicting to my statement I just made.
That's fine. I'll drop all the links so people can just
Yeah,
click
just
buttons.
drop all the links. But yeah, it's just outlyer.com and Outlyer Official on Instagram.
Epic. I very much appreciate
They can
you
also
taking the
contact you.
time.
They can
Yeah,
also
just
contact you,
email me directly.
to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. You have played a big role. You're like my, the bracelets. I'm not going to get, we don't need to go
Yes.
down religious rabbit holes here, but are like the, what would Jesus do bracelets? I feel like I
Yes.
need to make a, what would Emmanuel do bracelet when I'm facing something or dealing with something. This is like the amazing resets of perspective that I seek out constantly. Dealing with something that I feel like is hard. How would Emmanuel approach this thing? And I know exactly what would happen. What you do is like crack a joke, say F it, and move on, which is exactly what
Yes.
I should do in those situations of dealing with something that I think
it's only
is
about how
difficult.
you feel. Just because somebody thinks it's difficult, what do you think? Right? If you feel it's also difficult, then it's difficult. Then you probably got to find a way out. Now, what I like
The problem with that, Emmanuel, is that most of the time, what the masses, I'm included in that somewhere, think is difficult, those things are not actually difficult.
No.
They're just things that we're worried about because we don't have enough other things to worry about. Like our Maslow's hierarchy of needs is filled up in the emerged economy.
Yeah.
In the United States,
Yeah.
for the most part, not for everybody, but for the most part, like our Maslow's hierarchy of needs is filled up. So we go and find these things to stress out about that are really not worth stressing about.
Exactly.
that's my point, is like what are the things that I do in my life, and I'm very conscious of this, I've grown to be over the last 15 years, that I feel like, that bother me, or that, you know, trigger me, or whatever it is, they're never important. If you like, take a step back, they're never important.
Never. I also like to do, like, I know most people do horse riding and whatever it is that just clear their minds. I actually like, because it doesn't actually clear my mind. It puts my mind on overdrive, which I like, because if my mind is in overdrive thinking about 1,000 things, it's not thinking about the thing that I need to be worried about. And therefore that overdrive finds me a solution. It's weird. But what I do, it's like a calming overdrive. So what I'll do is I'll watch a movie. I will turn my phone off for 2 hours and watch a movie. Or I'll play PS5,
No,
right?
nice.
I'll literally just throw on the PS machine, and I'll start playing a game. Or I'll sit outside and just lie down and just have a nap, And I think just finding those bits of your day that you can just escape for 30 minutes is key, number one. And also I would say every Friday, make sure that when you're done on Friday, you can still work through the weekend, but remember it's a weekend. Remember it's a weekend. Weekends are there for a reason. So remember it's a weekend. Use it. Be with your family. Still in your off, when your family's in bed and you want to just do a little bit of whatever you want to do, send a few emails, fine. Do it at night when everyone's asleep or during a movie or whatever it is. But it's a weekend. So enjoy that weekend. Embrace it. Me and Joe, we literally rate our weekends. We have literally created a rating system for our
That's
week,
great.
right? How was our food this week? And I'm rating it this much. Like, we actually try and outdo every weekend we have to make it even better and more enjoyable and peaceful. And it's the simple things. So I think I never used to do that, and I never used to embrace the weekend because I always thought I had to be keeping going all the time, all the time, all the time. And I realized in the last 12 months, before I even got, like, when I got the Coldplay gig, I realized that I've been able to achieve more in the last 12 months. And this was before people even knew I was performing with Coldplay. So it wasn't even announced, but I'd achieved more in that 12 months because of this system I put in place than I had in those 4 years of rebuild. And that was simply because I worked hard, but also smart. And part of that smart work was also recognizing when I needed to just relax and not chase, allow that to come to me. Put it out there, let people know you're searching and you're wanting to do it, but then allow those human beings, and you got to still follow up every now and then, but allow them to think, hang on a minute, Emmanuel hasn't chased me. That's a bit weird. It's unusual. Okay, maybe I need to check in on it. You know what I mean? Anyway, I'm rambling.
No, it's epic. Great idea. Thanks a ton, man. Really appreciate it. A huge thanks to our guests today. Don't forget, this is powered by Pentane Financial and Advertising Command Center for Consumer Brands. Stop what you're doing, put your phone down, walk away from the computer screen, go outside, get some air, do something hard, push your limits, get uncomfortable, become more durable and more resilient, create the stamina required to get through those entrepreneurial barriers, stay in the game for as long as you can, and we will see you next time.